Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team, and your host, Randy Tobler.
Condemn the invasion that happened. We don't like that this is where things are, but you've got to make peace here. And the only way to make peace is to sit down and talk. You can't finger point. You can't, wag your finger at somebody and say, you're wrong, we're right. The way to peace is to have a decisive leader sit down and force people to come together.
Yes, Stephanie Bell will be heading to Moscow to wave her finger at Putin. And, when Stephanie waves her finger, we listen. And there may even be a question mark. There's Stephanie. And J.D. Vance was really on fire with Maria Bartiromo yesterday, Stephanie, because I think he was clearly telegraphing that the president has had it. The American people have had it. We're tired with funding this thing. And apparently come Friday, it's going to be crunch time.
It's going to be a little tough love. Most
right.
people need more of it.
I think you need to accompany him on that trip.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
Stephanie is there. John Marsh in. And, of course, Drake Whitman. We are Wake Up Missouri, 573-874-9390. Later on, we're going to talk with Scott Vaughn about Missouri, which now is, whenever the redistricting across the fruited plains is mentioned, I hear in, of course, Texas, Indiana, I think Ohio's in the mention.
Florida.
And now Missouri. I heard this morning the National Review Online guy talk about that as well. So, no doubt, Rich... what's his name? Rich, Rich Lowry. We are now in play. I mean, I think Missouri is in play. The Democrat Black Legislative Caucus
met
I think
the other day. They had Tyson Smith, who's had announced that they had a press conference at the Capitol in opposition to
Friday afternoon or Saturday and Friday afternoon, I think. And you look at the Illinois districts. I mean, this one, John, that spreads from East St. Louis up through Madison County, goes up to Springfield, like straight north, and then does a straight northeast cut, little sliver that goes up to Champaign. What happens in Champaign in the People's Republic of Illinois? Another college town, right? So Springfield, college town, Champaign, college town. So they talk about the king of gerrymandering. It's J.B. Pritzker. And he was all over the news wires yesterday. I think, forget which show he was on, talking about what a despicable anti-democratic thing these Republicans are doing. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black.
And Caleb Rowden, when we had him on, the former Senate President Pro Tem, Caleb was interesting when we asked him about all this as he was announcing his new book. He said, well, first of all, I'm glad I don't have to be there to debate it. Then he said, what goes around comes around. And if the Democrats end up back in power, this can come back and bite us big time.
And Scott actually was there for the fair kickoff, Scott Vaughn, who joins us at 7:10, and did an interview with Governor Kehoe and asked him directly about the redistricting issue. So he'll have an update for us.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I think there is momentum certainly moving in Missouri among Republicans. At the same time, of course, there's a lot of pushback from the left, and especially one state rep, Ashley Ahn, who had this to say.
Ani.
What I keep reminding my Republican colleagues across the aisle is that Donald Trump is a president. He is not a dictator. He is not a king, but he is an authoritarian. And I'm tired of him calling up Missouri and saying jump, and every Missourian saying, all right, Daddy Trump, how high? Yeah. Whatever you say. Shame. That's exactly right.
Well, she had this interesting body language going on, Stephanie. Did you see this clip? She was speaking to a gaggle of supporters, probably a rally anticipating and against a redistricting special session before it's even announced. And she sort of got that thing going with the head back and forth from one shoulder to the other. You know what I mean? A little bit indignant, sort of like in your face. But I don't understand. I mean, what wasn't it when you talk about authoritarianism? Let's talk about that a little bit. Wasn't it Barack Obama when the House and for a brief while the Senate were both in Republican control? Wasn't it Barack Obama that said he was going to do what he needed to do with the phone and a pen? Wasn't it Barack Obama that really started that, quote, authoritarian leadership style? If you want to concede that that's what Trump's doing.
Yeah, I don't see the authoritarianism, and we've heard from Scott Vaughn these people in D.C. are going to tell Missourians what to do. No, Missouri, and we heard that from
they can try.
Well, yeah, and look at Andrew Bailey winning every county in Missouri in the fall, right? Missourians are going to decide for themselves, but I do think, it makes sense that it's being talked about by D.C. because what Trump is saying is, hey, the Democrats are doing this. You voted for me. If we don't play the same game they do, we're going to get Hakeem Jeffries. We're going to lose seats, and I'm not going to be able to implement my agenda. And so, you voted for me. It affects Congress, and it affects how I can do my job. And here's one way we can address the issue. And a lot of states are saying, you know what? That's exactly right. Florida, Texas, they're waking up and saying, yeah, we have to keep on this path because we cannot keep doing what we've been doing.
And the larger emerging issue that's coming in, I think, American politics that American voters will ultimately make the decision on is if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander style politics, starting with the nuclear option in federal judiciary confirmations. Harry Reid started it. The Republicans have said, fine, we'll bring it on with Supreme Court justices. Check mark. Then it's the J6 investigations, the overcharging and overprosecution of Donald Trump. Not that what he did may not have been technically illegal with misrepresenting this or that with the value. You can argue that. But certainly for the same kind of behavior in New York, he was charged when others had not been charged. Okay? Then you've got the Russiagate and the weaponization of the DOJ and of our justice system. Now he's being accused, announcements made the other day that Adam Schiff and Letitia James are being investigated by the DOJ. I'm sorry, who started this fight? We didn't start this fight. They started the fight against Donald Trump. Who was it? Peter Strzok and his lover Lisa Page that said we're the insurance policy for the American people against Donald Trump. They're on record of saying they were single-handedly going to use their positions of power in the Department of Justice to go after Trump. I'm sorry, what's good for the goose is what's good for the gander.
And if you don't think they won't get control of Congress and then start subpoenaing people and opening up investigations, right now they're all fired up about the Trump family and what all of his side gigs or whatever. Day one, the new ballroom at the White House. We'll have all sorts of crazy investigations. I think they will all be related to Donald J. Trump.
So, look, and I guess on the other side, do we wish that there would be a truce? Do we wish that we could have some representation from, if there are level-headed Democrats out there, I'm not sure where they exist. They're certainly not Hakeem Jeffries. They're certainly not Chuck Schumer. But would it be nice to have some kind of a major summit where people said, look, we're going to stop this. We're going to stop this back and forth.
The only way it's
not going to happen.
There's no truce. The only way it stops is if we start holding some people accountable. And for example, with this whole Russia thing, if we have a grand jury and if people who are bad actors end up being held accountable, I think people will know that, hey, I can't just make stuff up and lie and perpetuate, this huge lie to take down a political opponent, because if I do, I'm going to be held accountable. It
may be that shame is the only accountability because of the darn statute of limitations. I keep hearing that come up.
And the easiest way to shut people up is to vote like we did last fall. If they take a couple more losses like that, I think, and especially, it's very common that at the midterms, it swings back the other way. We are, you just expect the Democrats to pick up some seats. But if we can, do better in the midterms, remember, let's see, last midterm cycle was red wave, and then we got a red trickle. Mm-hmm. If we can do something like that, that's the easiest way to shut these people up.
And ahead of that, they talked about Biden packing the courts. I think it's time to, through gerrymandering, pack the House and get done what you can get done. Let's get done what we can get done, no matter what happens in the midterms.
You talked about you guys talked about the state Democrats and their kind of get together for the press. I think it was Thursday of last week, and they took the heavy-handed approach and said, "Hey, if we end up with this redistricting over here, we're going to make sure that nothing gets done in the Senate and all the issues surrounding redistricting." And then like Randy said, we can go right back to it. You know, the senators have showed their inkling to go to the PQ again, and we'll see what that happens. But the Democrats have to take part in the budget, too. You know, you have to have enough of them on board by statute to pass a balanced budget. So it could be an ugly 2026 session with all this.
I look at David Tyson Smith's X feed from July 26th, a story that he highlights there that said Trump White House pressing Missouri Republicans to redraw a congressional map. And he says, sorry, President Trump, not happening. Well, we'll see. You only have so much you can do, and there is that PQ. I mean, look, it's bare knuckles politics in 2025 and beyond. As far as we can see on the horizon, we see nothing else happening. Will it take some kind of a national disaster like a 9/11 to bring people together again and to have people be reasonable? We can all agree that this gerrymandering, something doesn't feel good about it. It's raw, purely political. It's not purely representative.
But it is representative in a way because it is ultimately up to the state legislators. And if David Tyson Smith wanted to stop this, he could by getting more Democrats elected in Missouri, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, it's the people who spoke who elected a supermajority of Republicans in both houses, and it's going to be up to our elected representatives to decide whether this is the right path or not. And I think a lot of them have already decided.
Yeah, the Dems said the other day at their state thing, they said, well, we're going to go after Alford and we're going to go after Sam Graves. So stay tuned, I guess, the best idea on this.
With who? That's what I want to know. With
exactly.
Who?
Do not roam around the cabin. Take your seats and put on your seatbelt because we're going to run into some turbulence, apparently. And later on at 6:35, we'll have to talk with Drake about some former Mizzou players that ran right into some turbulence and did pretty well in the NFL preseason. That and more coming up. Later on, we will, as Stephanie said, be talking to Scott Fawn at 7:08. And then at 8:08, we'll be talking with Rick Bratton and talk to him about redistricting as well. Stay tuned. DC Rundown coming up.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions, that the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery. On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races, that no one should pay taxes. But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions. In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question: which group, the left or the right, is more radical? We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted? Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs. Everything from universal child care to free college tuition. Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%. Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services. Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees. Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes. Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so. Illegal immigrants would also receive free healthcare, free education, and free housing. The Green New Deal would be adopted. Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget. Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether. So would nuclear power. As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher. Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear. Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult. College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing. Transgender women, biological men who identify as women, would be allowed to compete against women in sports. America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%. Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just a partial list. Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted. Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes would be cut. Corporate taxes would be cut. And those cuts would be made permanent. All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed. The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rules for itself. Many more charter schools would be opened, and it would become much easier to fire bad teachers. In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID. The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings. In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work. The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines. Students in elementary school would recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day. So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom. If the left got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen would have less freedom. You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty. You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in? I'm Will Witt for Prager University.
We are talking quite a few agencies here, guys. Just to name a few of them: Metro Transit Police, Amtrak Police, U.S. Capitol Police, the DEA, and the FBI. Look here, the ATF Washington office. That's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. They posted this picture just before 2 a.m. this morning, showing them apparently pulling over a car along Georgia Avenue.
Well, it's time for the Daily DC Rundown, all about DC as a lead with Stephanie Bell.
The president is going to hold a news conference at 9 a.m. our time in the press briefing room. He is expected to explain what he sees. Of course, he's been very active on Truth Social about this, but what he sees as the FBI law, as the FBI involvement in the city. He says he wants our Capitol back. He said over the weekend, the FBI began to dispatch about 120 agents to help work these overnight shifts to help local law enforcement. Obviously, there's already a pretty significant relationship between these federal agencies and D.C., and they have this home rule, and there are some provisions that would allow the president to take some of these actions. But yeah, Trump is saying, we've got to do something about the violent crime. I think he said something like, we've got to send these. If you're a criminal, you got to go. If you're homeless, we'll find a place for you, but you got to get out of the heart of the Capitol.
And his next target is beautifying and updating a lot of the buildings in D.C. too.
Yes, that is true. He, I guess he's trying to build this ballroom, and I think has officially applied to the commission to get that oversees that to try to get that approved. But that seems underway as well. We are also learning about a new military offensive. Netanyahu said that his cabinet authorized attacking central camps, which the UN says are housing 500,000 displaced people. It's heating up. And of course, we've got a meeting coming up in Alaska. Trump will meet Friday with President Vladimir Putin. J.D. Vance was on Fox on Sunday for a rather lengthy interview, covered a whole bunch of different topics, but he said they're actually working on trying to get a separate meeting that includes Zelensky, but Vance said, hey, we've got to have this meeting with Putin and put the pressure on him first. He doesn't think a meeting between the two leaders would be productive until Trump puts the pressure on. So, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to land. Apparently, Putin says in order to get a ceasefire in Ukraine, he's going to need some concessions on land in the east.
Killing stops. It's not going to make anybody super happy. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians probably at the end of the day are going to be unhappy with it. But I don't think you can actually sit down and have this negotiation absent the leadership of Donald J. Trump. I've got to give the...
Interesting. I mean, Trump has brokered some deals that, involve Azerbaijan and the Armenians the other day. There's been 5 or 6 of them he's brokered throughout the world so far.
But this is the one that really counts. And of course, the timing too, it has frustrated Trump, and you can tell, where is his breaking point, because he thought I'm going to get in office and make some changes. It's been now more than 6 months, and we really haven't had any movement.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen on Friday, but this is a pivotal meeting. At the same time, Zelensky's saying we're not going to have any of this giveaway of land, so they seem to be miles apart.
Pretty far apart. It's also going to be a big week for the economy. We will get our July Consumer Price Index data tomorrow, and that might start reflecting Trump's new tariff policies. At the same time, we're getting some reports apparently from the New York Times that the new trade policies haven't had any impact on the price of new cars to date, which is good news. They said the industry itself is eating a lot of the cost right now, focusing on cost-cutting measures to try to keep those prices low, but that there's some indication that maybe those car prices will start ticking up toward the start of the new year.
Wonder what pressure that's going to put on the used car market, because, for a while it was super high, then it moderated, now maybe on the way up.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's moderated. If you've been car shopping in the last year, the prices are still pretty high.
Well, they said the latest round of tariffs was going to drive up the price of an average car over $6,000.
But so far, we're safe from that.
John,
Go buy one now.
Did you say $6K?
$6K for the average American automobile.
Woo! Wow. Man, that's a frightening. That's a frightening number.
But our fine advertisers have plenty of them.
What's going on with ex-Mizzou players? Doing pretty well. Talk about that in a minute.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
something too on that. Number one, he led the SEC in rushing, and which is just incredible what he did, and started. Stephanie knows at Truman State, walked on, tremendous work ethic.
Go Bulldogs!
Exactly, and Lutheran South. Hardly anybody gave him a chance. It was a basically a booster here in mid Missouri that encouraged Coach Drinkwitz. Look at this guy's tape. This guy saw something. Coach Drinkwitz took the time to look at it. The guy got a scholarship as a walk-on, Burlsworth Trophy winner. I hope he gets the chance. Somebody really should get him a chance.
It's an American story of, sort of a no one turned into a real winner, because of hard work and grit and determination. And from all reports, a good guy, too.
Yes,
Just an all-around good guy.
And he played for the Battlehawks in the UFL.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. And Stetson Bennett and him were rivals. Stetson Bennett was a Georgia Bulldog, of course, but anyway, a lot of hopefully he'll make the team.
And then Brady Cook with the Jets he got a few snaps.
Yeah, he got about 60 yards. So I mean, we're seeing some of our Mizzou guys actually play during this preseason. It's important.
Good to see. All right, what about Luther Burden now? When does he play? He's with the Bengals, right? No,
Bears.
The Bears. Okay. All right. Now, Brian, there's this interesting story of this sad story of a guy who was given a break but didn't take advantage of it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is a story I've been literally reporting on, the guy by the name of Malcolm Redmond in Columbia since literally almost for 20 years now. He's 42 years old. You may remember that name. He had his federal sentence commuted by then President Joe Biden back in July. Remember, folks, a commutation is not an expungement. He basically was released from federal prison, but he still was on supervision. I got a tip on Friday that he had been arrested during a traffic stop in Columbia, and I confirmed that he had been arrested. We don't know a lot of details right now. He is in jail without bond at the Boone County Jail. It appears to be violating his federal parole. Remember, parole records like they are in the state are generally closed, so we're probably not going to get a whole lot here, but he'll eventually be in the custody of the U.S. Marshals. He received a 24-year prison sentence, federal prison, for delivering distributing crack cocaine, powder cocaine from 2011 to 2014, 24 years, and then the president of the United States said that these were non-violent crimes. You could argue that, but he was also suspected, you might remember, of being involved in numerous shootings here in Columbia. Authorities, we've reported on this, they never could get witnesses to cooperate. They were afraid of retaliation, things like that. There was a shooting at the Boone Tavern. He himself, Malcolm Redmond, was almost assassinated during a shooting himself. It was outside the Chuck E. Cheese here in Columbia. That he was shot, which is now an auto parts store. So he's a guy who he believes he's been targeted by other people as well. He's back in jail, federal prison, and he will be heading back to federal prison.
And we don't know what the offense was.
It'd be a violation of his parole, but as far as the specifics, they don't have to release that, at least at this point. I don't see any new charges at this time, but this is a name. I've got much more at 939theeagle.com, our Columbia site, but his case received a lot of attention because when former President Biden issued the commutation, which he has the authority under the Constitution to do, that did get a lot of media attention because of this, some of his cases in the past. But he is back behind bars, at least for now, in Boone County, jailed without bond, and then eventually will be picked up by the marshals.
And this was a Sleepy Joe commutation.
It was one of the last commutations. Yeah, there were about, as I recall, maybe 150 to 200.
Yeah, he did that whole raft of them right at the end.
Yeah,
there.
But he
was it
was
an auto pen commutation?
Yeah,
but he was one of them. But yeah, he is behind bars.
Brian, back in the day, wasn't his father somehow involved in his case and ended up on charges of his own?
His father was actually convicted in federal court of threatening the attorney who represented one of Malcolm Redmond's co-defendants. This allegedly, he was convicted. It happened, according to prosecutors, at the Christopher Bond Courthouse in federal court. And federal prosecutors saying, this is in my story, 939theeagle.com, Stevens told the attorney at the federal courthouse, quote, this is a direct quote according to court documents, "Snitches, you a snitch. I will kill you. I'll kill your wife. I'll kill your family." This is, by the way, in front of deputies and marshals. They heard that. So Stevens was convicted.
And in Jefferson City.
It was in Jefferson because that was at the federal courthouse.
This was years ago.
2016.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, his father was convicted of mainly threatening, but the father was never implicated in any sort of drug dealing, but definitely was convicted of threatening the attorney.
Now, your thoughts about this? from the other day.
Outrageous and it's shameful. It is shameful that this idea is even being floated. This is not constitutional.
Okay.
The Missouri Constitution does not allow for redistricting unless there's an immediate census.
Okay.
And that is not happening.
That's David Tyson Smith at the Black Legislative Caucus presser on Thursday, saying it's unconstitutional, this whole redistricting thing. It's interesting. Now, he's an attorney, but I read a national news story. I forget if it was Reuters or AP. It was one of the formerly legitimate news services. But, I mean, who said they said that there is some, it seems as though there is some allowance in the Constitution for the redistricting. It's very, very interesting. He says no.
Stephanie's an attorney, and here's the best answer I can give you on this. I'm not an attorney, but the best answer I can give you is this. Nick Schroer, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, Republican and attorney, well-respected, says they can do it under the Constitution. He's an attorney. David Tyson Smith, an attorney, well-respected here in Columbia. He's ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee. He says it's unconstitutional.
You talked to the governor.
I was with the governor.
Did that come up, the constitutionality?
They were the questions were more about the politics of it rather than the constitutionality.
Okay. And Scott Vaughn interviewed the governor too. He'll be with us at 7:08. We'll see if he got into that at all.
And
Stephanie,
there
what do
have
you
been
say?
other Democrats that have raised this issue. They were citing some case. They were citing out of not the holding of the case. I think the Democrats know that they can't win because they again are in the super minority, and that they're throwing out, hey, there could be a potential legal challenge because they don't really have any other ways to try to stop it. So, I mean, would I be surprised if we saw a lawsuit? No, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it is constitutional.
We talked about this in the A block this hour. If you're just joining us, I'm Randy Tobler. There's Stephanie Bell with John Marsh, Drake Whitman on Wake Up Missouri. Now, this really is more than just the fist fight that is the redistricting, the political fist fight, because really you think about so many of President Trump's executive orders, a lot of the movement that he's done through the executive branch, and how often have we talked, guys, about how important it is for Congress to codify these things, get this thing into legislation, various the border moves, some of the other things he's done economically, the tariffs, there's now a lot of dispute about, there's a suit going on working its way up through the appellate system about whether he has the authority to invoke that National Emergency Authority Act back in whenever it was for the tariffs. But you got to get these things codified. That's why this redistricting matters. A lot of the things that are on the MAGA agenda, for that matter, I think it'll probably affect the MAHA agenda and so many others. It's important to have enough of a buffer there because now, what is it now? 3 seats, John? 3, I think?
Yeah, I think 3. And I think it was, and Steph may be able to correct me, but didn't the Supreme Court of the U.S. rule on redistricting and the gerrymandering that goes along with it? I think they ruled with one justice in the majority 5 or 6 years ago on this to say, yes, it's here to stay.
Yeah, it is here to stay. And I don't recall what the exact vote was, but yes.
It started, I looked into the history of that. Do you know how that was started?
How?
Well, apparently there was a guy that named, I think it was either a representative or it was a
his
governor.
Last name was Jerry.
Governor was Jerry.
Yeah.
And they said that the district that he created, was it up in Maryland or New Jersey or somewhere
like
in the Northeast?
Salamander.
And it looked like a salamander. So they melded Jerry with salamander, and they got gerrymandering. That's where it all originated from. Back in the late 1800s, I think. Somewhere.
Your daily etymology lesson from Randy.
Way back. I just thought that was interesting. Well, we use these terms. We wonder where they come from. Well, we have to have a history lesson because, after all, they're not teaching them in school anymore. So we have to just go and do our own education. They're doing revisionist history all the way along. So we have to do some proper history education. You learned that in college or in high school, didn't you, about where gerrymandering came from, Drake?
Yeah. It was one of those things. It's like you learn so many weird terms in American history, and then you see it applied in normal day, and it's just weird.
So, polarization of politics, doesn't even begin to describe where we're at now. But it's happened before in the past, and it'll happen again. And, at the end of the day, I think that the Democrats have so little substance to stand on that they just have to be on this shrill, how dare you do this? They looked idiotic. I have some sound we'll play later from I mean, Kristen Welker, of all people, on NBC, challenging Pritzker and making him look like an idiot. I mean, this guy presides over the state that probably is, well, I don't know if he's the king, but he might be the court jester of gerrymandering, right? I mean, somewhere up there, because definitely Illinois is up there in terms of their...
I think the Texas Democrats might get a few votes.
Yeah, that's true. No,
if you can find them to vote for them.
But I mean, for states that have done this previously, they're all blue and they're all Democrat and they all stand by it, and they all look like a spirograph, art form. Some of these districts, and they're complaining about the Republicans doing it. Sorry, guys, you don't have standing in this court from where I stand. When we come back, let's talk a little bit and make Missouri healthy again in just a few. Stay tuned.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
I just wanted to thank you very much for being where you are for 3 hours of my day.
I'm a new listener and already a huge fan.
You're calming for my soul.
Hey, hey, baby, can't you hear me calling? So let's stay home and enjoy the view, 'cause I just wanna be loved by you, yeah. Don't answer the door, don't answer the phone. Let's tell the world to leave us alone, 'cause I just wanna be loved.
In this edition of Make Missouri Healthy Again, I want to ask the question, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Drake Whitman, you guys like beef?
Duh.
You like pork?
Yeah.
You like lamb now and then?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you better put on your light-colored clothing, tuck those pants inside the boots, and spray your waistline, your sock line, your neck with some DEET spray to keep the ticks off of you, because alpha-gal is spreading.
I've heard this.
Alpha-gal syndrome has really spread, and the epicenter is really in Missouri, Tennessee. I mean, we are right in the heart of that goes down into northern Arkansas. But I'm telling you, anyone in our listening area, be careful about ticks, particularly that Lone Star tick. That's that tick that has a little white dot on the top of it. Increasingly, scientists are thinking that other ticks, such as the tick that carries Lyme disease, which, by the way, is extremely rare in Missouri, Lyme disease, extremely rare. But that's with a black-legged tick that doesn't have the Lone Star little mark on it. But anyway, that tick, very common in Missouri. And this alpha-gal is an interesting allergy. A lot of times it really baffles doctors and, people that are evaluating symptoms. Usually it starts by getting a tick bite, and the tick injects some of this substance into you, the saliva, which contains a substance which resembles a sugar molecule on the outside of mammalian cells. That creates an unusual reaction when it comes to allergies, because most allergies against things that we eat are really against the protein part of that particular thing. You can have a beef or a pork or a fish or a chicken allergy, but a peanut allergy, but that's usually the proteins. This is a sugar molecule, alpha galactose, and it turns out that about between 1 to 3 months later, usually, you might have a hamburger at 8, and by 10 midnight, you're waking up with itching, maybe difficulty breathing, sometimes extreme abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting. Usually it's delayed, a couple hours later or beyond, and then it gets worse.
The onset of the actual allergy is delayed from the tick bite.
Right, that's right. So you get sensitized to it, your body makes an overreactive immune response, and bingo, you've got a problem. And it's not only the obvious culprits, the beefsteak, the hamburger, at the governor's ham breakfast. Oh, what a shame it would be. But it's also gelatin in the capsules. If someone has a really bad reaction, a very hypersensitive alpha-gal syndrome, even a gelatin in a capsule that you may take over the counter or a prescription, those contain, where does gelatin come from?
Beef.
Well, horse's hooves or beef, right? And so anything that's a mammalian product marshmallows can bother some people,
really?
Right? So you have to be very, very careful. And people in the audience know, I know we have some patients that have it. It's really a big deal. Now,
I have a solution for you.
What's that?
We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, what is this?
Cookie butter.
May I try this?
If you have alpha-gal, I think you're safe. If you just subsist completely
May I try
on, subsist completely on cookie butter.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm liking that. That was good. But it turns out that really, if you get this, it can be really life-changing. It's transformational for people. And the good news is that
And then where do you get your protein?
Well, fish.
Fish. Ugh,
Yep.
that
Chicken.
sounds like a life.
Yeah,
that I
fish,
don't
chicken,
want.
alligator.
That kind of stuff.
Emu. No, and a lot of people, in a very sinister way, it may actually help people eat more vegetables, because you can eat those. You can eat lentils to get your protein. You can eat beans, But many people, as long as they don't get resensitized by eating these things or get rebitten by another tick, generally you can, over time, at least have the symptoms decrease. I've seen it go away after 2-3 years.
Well, that's
but
good.
It's a big deal.
I know at the summer camps, the kids were taking different hiking paths because the ticks have been so bad.
So
this
be
year.
careful. If you see a tick, get it off of you ASAP. And try to prevent it ever latching on in the first place. Scott Vaughn coming up. We're talking about him talking with the governor about redistricting and more. Stay tuned. With Scott Vaughn, our guest. Of course, Scott is the host and producer of This Week in Missouri Politics, as well as the publisher of Missouri Times. And Scott joins us now. Scott, great interview with Governor Keogh, wide-ranging, and I guess he's amenable to a new map, from what I heard.
I mean, what I heard is this is done. This is going to happen. It's kind of like I told you last week. This message was sent down from Washington, and it will be carried out in Missouri. And the only way this gets sideways is you have three people that a lot of folks could see in Congress, in Senators Tony Luke DeMeyer, Senator Curtis Gregory, and House Speaker John Patterson. All three good fundraisers, good vote getters, popular, great backstories. The three of them, you could see a scenario by which the three of them can't decide on who has the best advantage in this new district. I have no idea if Tony Luke DeMeyer even wants to do it. I don't know. I know Curtis Gregory has reasons. He's skeptical about it, but those three could get in a fight. Other than that, this is going to happen.
What has anyone looked at what that district would have to look like to make it work for the long term?
I think generally, and this is where Curtis Gregory's kind of thought of, is you'd see a district coming out of Independence area and going to Columbia. It would be somewhat competitive. One thing Republicans have to take into account, this state turned Republican with Reagan on the presidential level. On the statewide level, it took a little longer because of some problems with the party. But the folks in Independence have only been Republicans since Trump. I think there's very good reason to wonder if the people in Independence are actually Republicans or they just like Donald Trump. So depending on, I think as long as Donald Trump is president and in the news, a 7-1 map for the Republicans works in Missouri. I'm not sure anybody knows what a post-Trump politics is going to look like. And the folks that have voted Democrat their whole lives that switched over with Trump, I mean, is Trump even really a Republican? I mean, Donald Trump's kind of Donald Trump, and there's probably not going to be a second. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and this congressional map will be a great test probably when it's done, are they betting on the folks like the Independence labor guys being Republicans forever, or are they betting on them, or do they leave when Trump steps off the stage?
Now, that interview you did with Mike Kehoe was on the kickoff day of the Missouri State Fair. You spent some time there. Tell us about what you saw on that day and what you're expecting this year at the fair.
It's just a great homecoming. There's traditions me and my son do every year together. We always go over early, and we do the same. You know, he likes the animals. Going and seeing the livestock barns is awesome. When you go early, you get to see the kids showing their livestock they've worked all summer on, sometimes all year on, to get to show off there. Of course, Gussie likes the rides. If you just ask him, he'll say the rides. But as a dad, the older I get, the more I like holding his hand, he'll still let me walking through those livestock barns, going and seeing old friends at the steakhouse, at the co-op building. And then I actually get a very great honor to get to stand on the Midway and interview a lot of state leaders. And you can see those Wednesday and Thursday and Friday the next weekend on our social media channels at Missouri Times. I do enjoy that. You get a better version of an elected official at the fair than you will anywhere else.
You're listening to Scott Vaughn. I'm Randy Tobler, along with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman on Wake Up Missouri here on a Monday morning.
Scott, when the state Democrats got together the other day for their Capitol presser, they said if the Republicans pursue redistricting, they'd actively go after Mark Alford and Sam Graves' congressional seats. Stephanie had the comment was, with who?
Look, yeah, I mean, that's not – I mean, the truth is it comes down to this. Are the Republicans doing something they're proud of? No. You won't talk to any Republican that's not from the suburbs that is happy about this or proud of what they're doing. However, they know they're going to have to do this. The word is came down. They're going to do it. Also, it is an extremely compelling argument, even to those that are doing this with their teeth gritted. What Illinois did is blatantly corrupt. Now, you know, the question is, do you fight corruption with corruption? And I think the answer is going to be yes. And I don't know how to argue that point. I mean, that's a tremendous point for Republicans. Are you shortchanging the people in your own state by watching these other states essentially, I don't want to say cheat because it's within the rules, but very corruptly draw these districts? There's nothing that can be done. This is going to happen. It's been in the tank for a long time now. You heard Mike Kehoe essentially say as much Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics. This is over. The only thing that can stop it is infighting, and something tells me at the end of the day there won't be that much infighting. This won't be a particularly long special session. I assume they'll PQ it. The Democrats, John, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Would this state be better with more Democrats in the Missouri State Senate? Yes, I think it actually would be. And this comes as Matt Blunt's Butler County coordinator for his Secretary of State race. So, but I do think more competition as a Republican, more competition would create a better outcome for the state. But they cannot get over themselves with these social issues. If you can't tell me that what a man and a woman is, I'm not as apt to listen to you on redistricting. And it seems like if you want to defund the police and you live in one of the most dangerous places in the Western Hemisphere, I'm sorry. I don't think you have the judgment to be trusted on other issues. And I think the people of this state have just said, if you can't do these simple things, simple common sense things, you're not a credible You're not credible to even consider voting for it. So until the Democrats, probably going to have to be at the national level, get out of their own way on some of this bizarre stuff. We're a one-party state, and we're going to be for the foreseeable future.
I think you're right, Scott. When it comes to these policy issues, as you alluded to, whether it's nationally or in the state, the Democrats are so out of touch with most Main Street Missourians. And I think you would even admit, even those that live in cul-de-sacs and drive Priuses in suburban St. Louis County, even those people, they're out of touch with those people. But I think that's sort of then we talk
I'm
about
out of touch with those people, and I didn't stay that way.
We talk about the lawfare issue too. I mean, I think that the Democrats are criticizing Trump for going after Adam Schiff and Letitia James for their mortgage fraud and really sort of pushing back and making them accountable for Russiagate. Well, I'm sorry, I mean, when you're invited to a knife fight, bring a bigger knife. Maybe bring a gun. I think, and that's just the nature of raw knuckle politics in the 21st century.
The Democratic Party is seeing the reverb. When the Republicans here in the state do goofy, sloppy, dumb, partisan things, normally it blows up in their face, like Wile E. Coyote, like the PQs. Almost always blow up in their face. And I have no sympathy for a party who went after Donald Trump for nothing, simply because he won an election, and used the law. Can you believe they can find 12 Americans dumb enough to believe a word the FBI says? You would have to be the stupidest person that fell off the turnip truck to believe a word the FBI says. They've destroyed these institutions that they loved. They've destroyed them in pursuit of Donald Trump, and all failed. I have no sympathy for Adam Schiff or this lady in New York. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. The same corrupt practices they used are now being used against them, and it's done nothing but make their adversaries stronger and them weaker. And good. That is a good story. That is a wonderful lesson if people will learn it, that doing that corruption like they did to Trump only made them stronger and only made them weaker. I think that says a wonderful thing about this country. And also, if you trust the government, you, one, are a fool, and two, I have some beautiful oceanfront property in West Butler County I'd like to show you. I'll get you in it for a steal.
How does that square with what you said just a few minutes ago, though, that you'd like to see more Democrats in the legislature in Missouri?
Well, I'd like to see more common sense. I think we should draw spider districts to where no suburban area has more than 1/3 of the voters in a district. I think that'd be very good for the state. I do think that competition works. I mean, I'm a Republican. I'm actually one of the ones that is a conservative Republican. I think the government should do less. I think competition works. I think it's what you see woefully lacking in schools. I saw another example again of a fired administrator taking hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars with him out the door.
Yeah.
Competition works. Competition in the state Senate works. And I think a more leveled out chamber would produce more intelligent policies. I also think very few ideas are so great that you can't get one person on the other side to agree with you. Very seldom is that a great idea the state just can't do without. I believe a closer chamber would reflect better policies. They'd actually work, because that's the problem you see with a lot of this is you have people tripping over themselves to find success for a political party and not the state. And I'm telling you, Randy, there is going to be a day. It will not be while Trump's around. Trump is so beloved, he covers everyone else's sins. There's going to be a time that people of the state are going to ask, okay, are the schools better? You've been in power for a quarter of a century. You've been in absolute power now for 10, 15 years. Are the schools better? Is the state growing? Is the state's GDP up? Are wages up? Where is the success? Where are the fruits from that 25 years?
Oh.
And Randy, right now, I'm not totally sure that it's a very long list of accomplishments.
Yeah, show us the goods. That's Scott Fawn on Wake Up Missouri.
Scott, before we let you go, what happened to Billy Long at the IRS?
Well, there's two sources here, and anytime somebody starts covering Trump administration, I really am hesitant to trust them because, I mean, the media has shown they'll straight lie endlessly about Trump, and they'll think they're doing some good altruistic thing. Some say Billy Long wouldn't provide him a list of illegal immigrants' information to go find them, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't sound like Billy. It sounds like the kind of thing Billy would provide. And then there were some folks talking about how the culture of the IRS obviously is a bunch of terrible, awful people, and Billy didn't fit it all that well, which I thought was the wonderful thing about Billy doing that job is he didn't fit their culture. But I think there might have been some internal rivalries, and this just seemed like a better way to serve the president. So you'll hear Trump haters, and it may be true. Maybe Billy said it's not legal to provide this information. We're not providing it. So they want somebody that will. It'll tell you a lot about why Billy left. It's who replaces him. If they get somebody else known for an independent streak to go in there, then you'll know that maybe this wasn't the right fit for Congressman Long. If they bring in just a yes man that immediately provides this information, well, then it was maybe about that. So those are the two different things. But anything in Washington that involves Trump, I just am so skeptical about because they just bold-faced lie about him endlessly.
That's Scott Fawn. Now, Scott, we have an assignment for you, if you can, before when we touch base with you next Monday. Make sure you're at the Florida concert because we understand that Hauswirth and he are now bros. And so we're hoping he'll bring Hauswirth up on stage and maybe they can do a number together. Make sure you report on that, would you?
I know about you spin your head right round when you go down. I know Flo Rida. I know what's up.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Have a blast at the fair. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Buddy. Thank you.
All right. There he is. When we come back, Kristen Welker was challenging J.B. Pritzker, and boy, oh boy, he was on his heels. That when we come back on Wake Up Missouri at 7:24.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri
gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the President of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake.
Okay, now I know many of you on the text line, 573-874-90 here on Wake Up Missouri with me, Randy Tobler, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman. Many of you who are on the left side of the political fence like to message us at 573-874-90. Can you tell me where we can make any sense of what the Governor Pritzker, the governor of the one of the most gerrymandered states, who's harboring Texas Democrats as they are in exile, trying to avoid a special session, and he talks about saving democracy after, can we all say that maybe, just maybe, Kristen Welker on Meet the Depressed is a little left-leaning? She even says, come on, you hypocrite, what are you talking about? And he talks about voting rights and preempting people's voting rights and saving democracy. Can anyone on the left justify this? Because if you try to, you lose credibility. That's why from time to time, we will call Trump out. We'll say, hey, you got to protect the brand. Don't tarnish the brand when we think he's got it wrong. Where do Democrats think they're getting away with this? I mean, they started this fight. They've got gerrymandered districts that you need to take a microscope, a magnifying glass to see the width of it, right? You have to take the map and put your little Apple thing on there, the magnifier, and blow it. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of a sliver that goes through whatever rural area. I don't get it.
They started it, and the courts have checked off on states drawing districts, and the states are using that power now. We see it in Texas. We are seeing it in other states. Potentially, we will see it in Florida now. So.
Do you think it's going to be a done deal? Scott Fawn just told us it's done.
I think his last assessment was that it was highly likely, and I think that's probably right. I mean, I think what Cindy O'Loughlin say, likely.
Yeah.
So we saw, I think Scott's published like pieces from Nick Shore and from Curtis Trent, and so with if all of the leadership is on board, the legislative leaders, which it sounds like they are. Missouri has a supermajority, so it's ultimately going to be up to them, but I would say it's likely.
It's interesting. We have some people that say,
this company is going viral.
Some people say they agree with Scott. Others are say it's embarrassing. State maps should have people pick the representative, not the representative picking the voters.
Well, again, this is not the representative picking the voters because your state legislature is drawing the congressional maps, right?
Yeah, this is crazy.
We have.
So Illinois is a D+6 state, but 83% of their 17 seats are Democrat. Yes, gerrymandering. Mo is an R+9 state with 8 seats, but only 75% are R. Still disproportional. So I think now a lot of people, a lot of Trump / GOP supporters are saying, no, don't go there. Interesting.
I don't know that all of these people on the text line voted for Trump, Randy.
Oh, you think not?
No.
We got some. You think they're never Trumpers? I don't know. I got an AIAIO story when we come back. AI ain't everything it's stacked up to be.
I think just local news is
Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler along with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Drake Whitman. Now, many of you have played with AI. I play with AI. I use it occasionally. Stephanie, you said you use it maybe to just sort of like a laser in the rifle scope. It's not the fine tuning on, you're not really sighting it in, but gives you, so you get it on the target, right?
It can do 75% of the work.
Yeah. And John, I know you don't use it much with your reporting, but maybe in research, we use it now and then. Okay. And
it's great for research, double check your facts. It's handy.
And these days, when you Google search or any search engine search, you get an AI automatically, right? It pops up right there
Pretty
on top.
much.
So we're all using it whether we want to or not. When it comes to creativity, though, and, editing things and making things look different or better or different, it's not ready for prime time, folks. Let me just tell you that. So
not all the versions of it.
Oh, boy. I don't know which AI, daughter Sammy or Shannon. Was it Shannon or Sammy? One of them. So anyway, Shannon on her way home, the last time she visited us, on her way home down to Fort Campbell, visited my in-laws. And they're wonderful people. Grandma and Grandpa, to her kids, beautiful people, to her. And great-grandpa and grandma down in Fenton, Missouri. Okay, and they're like 95 years old, right? But they're doing great. But anyway, they went down. There's this darling picture that she took of her and her three kids with grandma and grandpa. But grandpa, his shoes were off. And because he's got a little swollen legs, that happens when you get older, we thought that one of the girls thought, well, that's distracting because it's, everyone wants to look at grandma and grandpa's face with the kids smiling and everything. And
I don't want to see anybody's
You don't want to see anyone's feet. So they thought, brilliant idea. Let's use one of the AI engines. I don't know. It was, I don't know which one it was, if it was Chat GPT or Gemini or Grok or I don't know what it was. And they said, put shoes on grandpa. Well, they did. And then they sent it to Helene. And it was late at night. We visited my mom, who's 90, down in Union. And it was just a long day. And so we didn't look at it closely, but it was a darling picture. It was like, my gosh, there's grandma and grandpa and the kids and the grandkids smiling. It's a beautiful Norman Rockwell-esque picture. So Helene posts it. Immediately, the text thread blows up. And the girls are, Mom, take it down. Oh my gosh, you want to take it down? I can't believe what ChatGPT did to the kids. And then we started getting the close-ups, the blown-up pictures of, basically, not only did it put shoes on Grandpa, but it made the little, almost 1-year-old, Shannon's 1-year-old, Shepherd, it made him look like he didn't have an upper lip. There are a bunch of teeth there. It made her little 3-year-old look like a little gremlin. And Shannon herself looked all morphed, but you had to look closely, Yeah. And I mean, oh boy, it was vitriolic. Boy, did Helene catch hell from the kids, from the girls. And I don't blame them. But they went back and they redid something, and now it looks beautiful. So she reposted it.
Okay.
But one of Shannon's good friends said, I forget what the word was, but oh yeah, AI really did you and the kids dirty, Shannon. She was getting these comments online, and we felt bad because we were just focused on grandma and grandpa, and it was just a sort of in the demagnified view, it looked okay, but when you start looking closely, it's like, whoo, this is like a bad B-rated Hollywood movie. Ugh,
or like ugly. When you're messing around online and you put the kitty cat ears on everybody.
Yeah. It was just awful.
I haven't tried to use it for image editing yet, and I know the versions are getting better. And some of the brands, some of the systems do better with images, and others do better with like reasoning in text. And I don't know the difference.
Do you know the difference, Drake? What's the story on this?
Like between the different models?
Well, I mean, is there one that does a better job of that than?
Oh yeah, so I use ChatGPT all the time, and you can get specified I guess GPTs is what they call it, like different chatbots to help you with certain topics. Like there is image editing one. There's like one for more like if you want to write a paper, it'll help you with that, and it's more geared toward that.
Is Drake admitting to the fact that he doesn't write his own papers? No, but they did just OpenAI announced ChatGPT 5, I believe, last week, and they took away the fact that you have to choose the different different AIs within OpenAI. And now when you put your prompt in, it's supposed to figure out which one is best suited for your question and to try to take away some of that stuff where you're like, I don't know which one I should choose.
Yeah.
Which I think is helpful.
It's awesome. There are 2 different AIs that you can use on ChatGPT right now. You have the normal ChatGPT 5, and then you get the ChatGPT 5 Thinking, which is a more in-depth thing. But I really like that because I hated going from ChatGPT 3.5, which is better at this, and then ChatGPT 4, which is better at this. It's a lot easier now.
Well, to ChatGPT's credit, I mean, actually, the final picture
Retained your faces.
I think
so they had to go. I mean, and they say it's all about learning the prompting because if you junk in, junk out, and so you have to be really good at asking it to do what you want to do. But like add shoes to grandpa seems clear enough. But like, what do you have to say? Add shoes to grandpa, but like don't mess up my face.
Add shoes to grandpa's feet, not his ears.
Yeah, right.
So I haven't even looked at the final version where they just reverted to the original picture with grandpa's feet or not. I don't know, but it was hilarious. I mean, it was just one of those funny things where totally innocent. Helene thought she was really doing a wonderful thing, the kind of thing that everyone goes, oh, but everyone,
There was also this super interesting article on Bloomberg, Randy, here recently that they, folks have been, I think, kind of like Randy, like Chicken Little, AI is scary and it's coming for your jobs. And they've got a bunch of data in this article, and essentially they say they identified industries that are most at risk, they say, for AI, lower level jobs, things that, you would think could be simulated by an AI. And they said, actually, it virtually has had and has currently no effect on the job market. We're not seeing like AI steal people's jobs.
It's ironic, though, isn't it, that Microsoft laid off a bunch of people? You wonder if AI does its own coding at some point. Will some of the techies who, went right, maybe didn't go to college because they're so good at the computer stuff, got a job doing coding and IT and, behind the scenes computer work, suddenly it's like, uh-oh.
AI will get so good it'll eliminate its own job.
There you go.
Potentially. But I mean, you think about it with like the onset of the internet and like how different our lives are with the advent of the internet. And I think there was some, nervousness when it came to that and how it would affect the workforce. But now, like, how many people have jobs that are only based on the internet?
That's true.
And I think it's making people more productive, more efficient. But again, like some of these tech people, I mean, they're going to be teaching the rest of us how to use AI. I mean, so I don't see it having a huge impact on the job market. And I think it potentially opens up like new industry.
I was thinking about how where most of our GDP, well, at least 50% of our GDP used to be manufacturing, building things, making stuff, right? And now the majority,
it's the government.
It's real estate and finance, right? I mean, it's finance, and a lot of electronic stuff. And is that really productivity? And this is nothing to besmirch people that are involved in these industries. It's just that it seems like churning money has become the way to make money in America rather than building things, repairing things, restoring stuff. As an example, I think about, and it may sound trite, but think about the problem we have, and I think folks that live in rural Missouri would know this. Many of you may have property or even on your home acreage, invasive species. When people lose their jobs, I still think it's a thing coming. I don't think it's sort of like these tariffs. I believe we haven't seen the other shoe drop. I think Americans will end up paying more. I think things will go up. But when it comes to jobs, I think you will see jobs being lost. But why not put people to work cleaning up invasive species? Why not put people to work? Let's get those potholes cleaned up. I mean, let's do different kinds of work. It's still work. And actually, it'll be healthier for us than sitting at a cubicle behind a computer.
And I think you have seen a slight resurgence in that. Of course, we've seen the construction of things like Rankin Technical College in Ashland. There's been a lot more interest in tech schools and hands-on work, and I think that's really important. And I think what we realized, too, I mean, we are in short supply of that kind of work. Anybody who's
Yes.
tried to hire a plumber or electrician or any sort of construction, whether it's the price because the supply of those folks is so limited, or whether it's the timeline that you have to get on a list now and wait.
You're so right.
There's huge opportunities for folks who are younger to get into those businesses and honestly make a pretty penny.
I think you make a pretty good buck these days if you're. You don't even have to own one of those companies. If you become a foreman or something, you're working, for what?
Welding.
Huge. I know plumbers make pretty good bucks, don't they? And, I think linemen, my goodness. They do.
You were talking about taking care of invasive species. I have a group of friends who goes down to Texas almost every year and blows the heck out of feral hogs.
Oh, yeah.
And says they're yummy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had some friends when we lived up in northeast Missouri that had, he and his son would go down and they'd go hunting for those, on those feral hog hunt. And boy, they'd make bacon out of those babies. Woo, was that good. Good bacon. If you like bacon. I mean, after all.
You got to have a $4,000 thermal imaging sight on your AR, but yeah, it's all good.
I mean, can you imagine life? I mean, if there's a singular reason to be careful about tick exposure, we talked about that last hour on the health segment. Man, I mean, could you imagine a life without bacon? That's got to be tough for you guys and gals out there that suffer with alpha gal. Man, so be careful about those ticks. It's a big deal. John, what's your big deal when we come back?
A caution for Steph. Take your platinum card to Europe next time around. Brand new tourist finds.
Ooh, sounds fun. Steph will be perking up for that one. Stay tuned for more on Wake Up Missouri. We'll be back.
And that would be all, except for this.
If you're vacationing in Europe this summer, bring along some extra cash. Popular tourist destinations in Europe are combating mass tourism by slapping some ridiculous yet costly fines on visitors who they deem unruly. If you wear a bathing suit off the beach in Barcelona, Sorrento, Cannes, or Venice, you could face a fine of up to $1,747.
Whoa.
In Majorca, Ibiza, and the Canary Islands, drinking alcohol on the street can set you back $3,400.
Wow.
Drake doesn't have to worry about that.
There you go. Leaving your towel behind in Spain on your pool chair, $291.
Oh, my goodness.
How about Spain, Greece, Italy, France, and Portugal cracking down if you wear flip-flops behind the wheel, $350 fine. Pick up a shell on the beach in Greece, $1,100. Swim in the canal in Venice, $407. And some of the best ones, in Luxembourg, no walking around with a toothpick in your mouth, $200.
Hello?
Hungary bans wearing ball caps backwards in the major churches in Budapest, $500. And in Romania, you can't eat sagarete without a bib, which is blood sausage. And now you know the rest of that one. So
I think I'm safe from that list of things. I don't typically wear like swimsuits when I'm not at the beach or the pool.
You don't?
In public, not really.
Okay.
I don't really walk around with a toothpick in my mouth either.
No.
$291 for leaving your towel on your beach chair in Spain too long.
I could be known to do that.
And picking a shell off the beach?
$1,100 in Greece.
Wow.
Are they that rare?
Well, how many visitors do they get a year? They get like hundreds of thousands of visitors if everyone pockets one.
There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
guess so.
Where else would Aphrodite go to live, right?
Where did What's-His-Face arrange those shells? Was it in Greece? Does he need a fine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't know where he was.
Speaking of beaches, we had I had a friend, a doc friend of mine whose wife made a habit, they had a hobby where wherever they went, you do that too. Don't you get a little sample of the sand and collect it? No,
I don't do that.
I thought you did something wherever you go. You collect mementos.
I collect Christmas ornaments.
She would collect a little vial of sand.
That's
pretty
cute.
cool. And it's amazing the difference in sands when you go around.
I mean, I definitely have bags of shells that like the girls collected in Florida and other places.
Yeah.
I never knew that like we might be in trouble for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hopefully,
I don't think Florida fines you for that.
I don't think
right.
so.
They don't call them sand dollars for a reason, right?
That's funny. We were talking about law and order and how some countries and city-states, have such strict prohibitions against things, and how the punishment is so different than what it is here in the United States. Like we talked about Singapore and the caning. You can get caned for like spitting on the sidewalk, or it's crazy.
I mean, it's wild. Talking to folks who lived through a different country's COVID. I mean, the horror and the terror that they had and the fines were insane. I talked to a friend who had a dog, and she's like, I had to wake up in the middle of the night just to walk my dog because we weren't allowed outside. And I thought, that is just, and she's like, I almost injured myself because I was actually, walking around in the dark. And then at one point I tried to ride my bike. I mean, it's crazy. And then I've told the story about how some people don't travel as much because they're supposed to offset their carbon emissions and this whole, and then I talked to my friends, why don't you always come to these conferences or bring your wife? And they're like, well, we get these massive fines if the kids miss a day of school or whatever. And so we can't do it. And I'm thinking, you're letting the government control every aspect, whether or not you travel or whether you bring your family with you, or I think
in the initial few weeks, I think there was well-deserved grace for health authorities because we didn't know what we were dealing with. We just saw the Chinese terrible pictures out of China,
but
and
they
then
suffered for months.
New York City, we saw them bringing on the refrigerated semis because there was no room in the morgue. I mean, it was truly a big deal. But instead of sort of taking that early lead on, okay, who are the real vulnerable? Let's make sure if you're going to do a vaccine, let's get these people vaccinated because the risk, is outweighed by the benefits. It just wasn't very nuanced. It was sort of that I think power just got a hold of itself here. And think of Australia. Some guy going out to empty his trash or pick up his mailbox, and the cops are hauling him away. It was crazy what happened in so-called democratic countries.
Too many people at your picnic.
Yeah. Or the outdoor. Remember when some churches took to outdoor services,
yeah.
people sitting in their cars and they were being outlawed? It's like, what's this all about? I don't know. You look back at that and it was like a bad nightmare, right? And you're like, how did we ever get
Definitely.
there? Yeah. And now we're trying to just, regain some credibility for institutions formerly respected. Well, the institution of the legislature in Missouri is getting a lot of respect when it comes to A3, at least from many. We'll talk with Rick Bratton, Senator Bratton, about that and more in a moment.
the Zimmer News Team, and your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri as we watch later for the president's presser on D.C. beautification plan, on his crackdown on crime there, trying to make it a place that you do want to go visit. It's you have to. I mean, we had one of the Doge guys get assaulted a few weeks ago. We had an engaged couple that were working at the Israeli embassy get mowed down with a shooting incident. So we'll see what that where that goes, and we'll report on that tomorrow. But we turn our sights to our home state here in Missouri, and Senator Rick Bratton joins us now to talk about what's coming up on his slate about redistricting and about Amendment 3 and a redo on that. Welcome in, Senator Bratton.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
Hey, so tell us about the chance that Missouri voters will have to rethink this whole abortion issue after, of course, outside money got it passed back in November. What's coming up?
Yeah, so they'll have the capability to go back to being a pro-life state instead of the most radical abortion state in not just the nation and the entire world. When we had this HJR in front of the Senate committee, it was really evident that the people that even came to testify in opposition to us doing this, they had no clue what was originally in the. I hate that all this going on with now. We're going to say vote yes on Amendment 3 when it was Amendment 3 originally that we were fighting to pass. But these folks had no idea what was in the original Amendment 3, the types of women's safety standards that were completely eviscerated in this. So it was really evident that the voters had no clue what was in this. It was just a smoke and mirrors, and you're right, millions of dollars pouring into the state to deceive voters into actually lying to voters what the current law was. So they were, as everybody knows, all the ads were saying that women were going to die or are currently dying on operating tables because they couldn't receive treatment, which was a blatant lie, and they knew it, but it works. So this will give the capability for people to have reasonable guidelines for rape and incest, and make sure that women can receive treatment if the health is in jeopardy, but also protecting life at all costs.
Now, the vote in the fall was super close, 52% to 48%, even with the outsized spending from the pro-abortion folks. I think some people are thinking, okay, we just voted on this, the vote's going to be the same. How are Republicans approaching this issue differently this time to try to secure a win?
Well, I think a lot of the faith-based community last go around, they kind of took it for granted. They didn't really get involved. They didn't, press into trying to defeat it, and we lost. But by a very narrow margin. So I think now I've had several people reach out and like, hey, we want to be on the forward end of this to try to get this passed in Missouri to rectify this. So I think we're going to see some substantial numbers in our favor to pass this and to revoke the original Amendment 3. So I'm looking forward to it.
You bring up a good point. There are some people who just sat on the sidelines and didn't get involved. But even amongst the groups that got involved, it seemed to be like there were lots of different groups trying to work on it, but maybe not in a cohesive way. I feel like there's more unity around this 2026 Amendment 3. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yes. Yeah. And that was the thing. Everybody was segmented the last go round. Everybody wanted to have their toys and stay in their corner with their toys. And then everybody wanted to be the lead on it. And there was infighting. Well, now it's like, holy cow, this is where we're at. We realize that we've got to let pride fall to the wayside, and we've got to work as a unified front. And it's definitely evident this go round. So I feel really hopeful this go-round for sure.
That's Senator Rick Bratton. He joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Senator, talk to us about the potential redistricting battle that's looming large. Could that throw a monkey wrench into other planned things for the upcoming session?
Possibly, but I think if we're going to do redistricting, it's going to be in a special session setting. So it's not going to necessarily, cloud normal session and an agenda, that we set forth for regular session. But I totally think that we should do this. I was one of the very few that were screaming from the rooftops that we should do a 7-1 map to begin with. And spent many hours filibustering on the floor trying to make sure we were able to get this done. But the political capital wasn't there. It didn't happen. We did get a decent map. But now that we have the political winds behind us, I think that we need to play ball. The Democrats have no issues whatsoever of doing this in all the states that they control. And that's why I thought it was bad politics for us not to do the exact same and try to play nice when they're in control. They want to literally decapitate the opposition. So I think better late than never.
It sounds like what we heard coming from the Black Legislative Caucus presser the other day is that they'll do whatever it takes to attempt to try to stop the redistricting maneuver, Senator. So does that mean the PQ is now going to become normalized and that's going to be the way to do business in Jefferson City? And I'm not critical of that. I actually think we should have done it a long time ago. It's sort of the old brass knuckles knife fight argument that we hear about, If they're going to play tough, we have to play tougher, no?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the people have elected supermajorities to do supermajority things, and we have all these tools at our disposal. Now, do we want to use it and become houseified in the Senate for the use of the PQ? No. But just as the PQ is kind of the nuclear option, but so is the filibuster. And we saw that all session last session. The Democrats literally filibustered every bill that came before the body. Every single day they were filibustering day in, day out to try to move their position. We used the PQ twice last go round. I've been in the Senate for 5 going on 6 years now, and that was the first time we've ever utilized the PQ. So to say that we're all of a sudden going to turn into the House is just ridiculous. But the minority needs to realize that they're the super minority, and there's a reason why they are the minority. And let history be a lesson too. Go back to when Democrats were in the majority. They ruled with an iron fist. So this all of a sudden Republicans, because we're in super majority, have to play nice with kid gloves. Give me a break. I'm all about utilizing the tools that we have to advance our position.
This continues to raise an issue that I think is really a burr under the saddle of many Republican voters, Senator, and that is the root cause of it seems like an ongoing, recurring itch that just doesn't get scratched, with whether it is the marijuana rule, the laws, whether it's the A3, whether it is you name it, this willy-nilly, altering and amending our Constitution, 200 some odd times. It's this IP reform issue. When are we going to get to the root cause and get it solved?
Well, I think a lot of it, we had a lot of special interests that had a lot of money that carried a lot of weight to put a stop to any sort of reform to the IP process. But you're right. One thing I try to stress to people, we're not a direct democracy. The IP process is direct democracy in action, and that when we see the detriment of direct democracy, we're a constitutional republic, and there are several states that don't even have an IP process. So to act as though the founding fathers implemented this into our state constitution, it's just erroneous and ridiculous. And we need to protect the Constitution at all costs and not turn it into some political football for special interests, which is exactly what it's turned into. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that the voters, if there is this, outrageous push and desire from grassroots Missouri to amend the Constitution, we need to potentially still have an avenue of IP. But what it is now of 50 plus 1% to amend our Constitution is it's way too low. and crazy to think that this is where we're at. You're right. Marijuana, sports betting. I mean, go on down the list. Bingo. I mean, it's ridiculous what's in our Constitution now.
I want to get back to Amendment 3 for just a moment, because this part of the Falls Amendment 3 was really important to me and scary. And I'm reading the ballot title of the new Amendment 3, and it says it's going to amend the Constitution to ensure parental consent for minors and also to protect children from gender transition. You talked a little bit about the protections that are in there for women's health, but you're a parent. I mean, talk to me about what those provisions mean for Missourians.
Absolutely. I'm a father of 3 daughters. I have 5 kids, a father of 3 daughters. And to think that now in the Constitution, my daughter could potentially even be trafficked by some lunatic and go into a Planned Parenthood without any sort of a parental consent whatsoever. That's what was in this, or the transitioning of kids as a constitutional right and a reproductive freedom. And that's what the opposition, or the ones that were trying to get it passed initially, they were saying, oh, no, that's not in it. That's not in it. But as soon as it passed, they were celebrating that that's exactly what was in it. So that's absolutely what we're fixing. The people were lied to, and we're going to rectify this and put it on full display. We did so in the hearing, and it was really telling. I pressed in on a abortion doc. I was like, do you disclose to your patients that you can't be sued, you can't be criminally prosecuted if you kill them in a procedure? And she was like, well, no. I'm like, well, why not? Because that's exactly what that amendment allowed to happen if you killed or maimed somebody. And it was a great hearing to really pull the wool back, pull the veil back to show them for who they were. So hopefully we're able to really put that on the forefront.
We thank you for that. Now, last question in the last 30 seconds we have. If you did have a choice of what kind of egg, how your eggs would be fried, cooked, otherwise boiled or poached at the ham breakfast, how does Senator Rick Bratton like his eggs?
Over medium.
Over medium, there it is.
Oh, yep.
An exclusive here on Wake Up Missouri with Senator Rick Bratton. Hey, thank you for a wide-ranging discussion. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, there he is, Senator Bratton. Over medium. All right. That's going to be, I think we just need to be asking people, and we'll come up with some consensus.
Because the Dems are all scrambled.
That's great. And we hope when it comes to redistricting, poached. When we come back, what's going on in the markets with Stephanie Bell.
You're listening to
It's time for the Morning Bell with Stephanie.
It was a good day on Friday with the NASDAQ at a record close and the S&P hit almost a all-time high. Of course, someone else that had a very good week after they bestowed on Trump a golden and glass memento for their investment in the U.S., Apple had a huge week, surging 13% last week, which was its best week in more than 5 years. As we look at the closing numbers, the NASDAQ was up 0.98%, S&P up 0.78%, the Dow up 0.47%. The big gains, of course, we just talked about Apple. Big gains were in technology and communication services. Losers were real estate, utilities, and industrials. We are expecting some big economic news. We already talked a little bit about the impact of tariffs, and there's some new reporting out of I think the New York Times saying that automakers are actually eating a lot of the cost of the tariffs. And
so far,
car prices aren't changing just yet. We will also be getting the July Consumer Price Index inflation data tomorrow. So I think what we heard from Aaron Hedlund, who was here a few weeks ago at Zimmer headquarters, is some of these indicators, be it the jobs numbers or the CPI, they lag a little bit from some of this decision making. And obviously we've had kind of a roller coaster of a spring. So it's been, some of the numbers have been good and then they've been bad, and it's, all about the timing. So we might start seeing how Trump's policies are really affecting the economy. But Randy, I'm here to tell you today, it's a sad day. You're going to have to find new internet service. Do you remember this? I remember this like it was yesterday.
I remember it.
How many times did you listen
Good
to
old
this?
dial-up.
And I thought, but remember, when you finally got there, despite all of the glitches, how revolutionary, how transformational it was. It was so cool.
Of course, if you sat waiting, looking at the running guy on that AOL screen, you were not alone. Because
You've got mail.
That was the best thing ever. Can you imagine if it still said that? Mine would just say that all day long. I wouldn't be able to get any work done.
Waiting on the ALI guy to quit running so you could get on your MySpace account.
Exactly. Now, AOL announced on Friday that it is officially shutting down its dial-up service. And people are like, wait a minute, people still use AOL? That comes to an end on September 30th. They did say that oftentimes in rural areas, although even with all of the rural broadband work, there are areas that you still have to use dial-up service.
Still on copper many places. And
Remember when they used to snail mail you the CD to upload the software?
100%. That was so cool. And okay, so in 1999, AOL had 18 million subscribers. In 2015, there were about 2 million still. But by 2021, they said it's in the low thousands of how many people were using AOL. So not too many people. And they did say in these rural areas where AOL is going offline, there's likely another provider that will still be able to provide dial-up service for those folks that need it. But it's the end of an era, Randy, and I'm feeling quite sad about it this morning.
Now, at Future World at Disney, had that wonderful ride where it talked about Bakelite and Tupperware. It would go back and talk about all of the scientific.
I did watch that.
It's a beautiful ride. It was, I don't know, I always found it really cool. And the kids were like, you got to be kidding. I wonder, this is the kind of thing that would be at Future World, right? I mean, you'd have a little disc and they'd have that sound. I wonder if they've changed that exhibit. I hope they don't. I know they're.
AOL 40 years ago when it started.
Can you believe it? 40 years ago, that long.
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that is crazy. Back with more Wake Up Missouri after news, weather, and sports.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on.
200 days of winning, and we are just getting started. Let's break it all down in this week's MAGA Minute. As usual, President Trump spent the week answering an unprecedented number of questions from the press, even on the roof, on Squawk Box, and everywhere in between. President Trump signed an executive order establishing a White House task force on the 2028 Summer Olympics, which will take place in Los Angeles, California. The president signed a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, to require higher education institutions receiving federal financial assistance to be transparent regarding their admissions practices. No more DEI admissions. Tim Cook visited the White House to announce billions more dollars in investments in America. That means more jobs for you and your family. The administration also hosted 100 Purple Heart recipients at the White House to celebrate their incredible sacrifices to our country. The president wrapped up the week by securing a historic peace deal, yet another one, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, ending a decades-long conflict that has killed thousands of people. Also this week, Nancy Pelosi doubled down on the Democrats' desire to mutilate the private parts of our nation's innocent children. HHS announced plans to cut Medicare and Medicaid to any hospital that provides what they call this barbaric practice, gender-affirming care. The Department of Agriculture this week brought the whole cabinet together to celebrate the Great American Farmers Market on the National Mall, reaffirming the Trump administration's commitment to our agricultural community and our farmers.
And on and on and on it went. This has become a weekly event when Caroline Leavitt just basically recounts and checks the boxes of the things that Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail, and he is delivering on his promise. A far cry, I think, no fault of his own, but as a consequence of the lawfare that was used against him in the first administration when he was just hamstrung by the onslaught of all of those assaults, whether it was impeachment or
couldn't
whatever.
attend to the work of state because they had him locked up in a courtroom all the time.
Yeah. And, I think it's commendable. Look, even if you're a Democrat, if you're a libertarian, whatever you are, if you're an anti-Trumper, you got to say the guy is trying to deliver on the promises that he campaigned on. And, I've got to give him some cred there, right? Now, we'll see how many of these investment promises, let's say, that he's had from the likes of Tim Cook and foreign companies who in the EU, they've shown interest. There's nothing inked in their investment in the United States of America and putting companies here. But I guess if it's too painful for companies, whether they're headquartered here or headquartered other places, to deal with, bringing products made elsewhere into the States with tariffs, it becomes too painful to do that. Well, okay, I guess they want to put manufacturing facilities here. That's the gamble. And it is a gamble. We'll see whether it really comes to fruition and whether it happens quickly enough ahead of the midterms, or at least there's enough progress ahead of the midterms to avoid what you were talking about, Stephanie Bell, earlier, and that is, midterm, can we at least take a blue wave and turn it into a blue ripple, if that's traditionally, historically, what happens in midterms?
Yeah, and we thought we had them last time in the midterms, and we did not. And so, but, I don't agree with everything Scott Vaughn says, obviously, but he kind of pointed out we're the show me state, and we've got to have, successes and at the state level and at the federal level. And we can't just keep talking about things. We've got to check the boxes. And what we just heard there is Trump is checking off a lot of those campaign promises. Whether you agree or disagree with him, he is trying to get stuff done. And it's been a pretty insane first 6 months.
Wow. Been busy for sure. And I guess not lost on us is that former Congressman Billy Long was he the IRS commissioner for a little less than 2 months, right?
2 months.
Yeah,
for,
2 months.
For a buddy Billy.
And now he's a nominee for the ambassador to Iceland. That's an interesting thing. That's just something that seems like it doesn't fit, right? Congressman Long doing an auction
when I think
in
ambassadors,
Iceland.
I think of like stuffy people,
Yeah.
hoity-toity, stuffy people. Although it's
Billy'd
on my...
be a good fit up there. They've got those little kind of miniature, shaggy longhorns up there, and in
reindeer.
Iceland, Billy could auction those off for the best of them. I'm sure.
I mean, if you asked me if I wanted to be the ambassador to Iceland or the IRS head, 100% ambassador.
Really?
I think, yeah.
Rather be
Yeah,
the
no
ambassador.
kidding.
Oh, yeah. You have like superpowers when you're an ambassador.
But it's not as consequential, right?
It could be.
The IRS could be super consequential.
Yeah, if you like ulcers.
Now, I wonder, maybe this is a 3D chess move. I mean, does Iceland have any of these rare earth metals and the things that are so important to our technology and all that? Maybe there's a move there. I don't know. Billy, he's got that charming country style about him. Maybe there's some really buried deeply in the Icelandic tundra. Is there tundra in Iceland? I think so. That's why they call it
Iceland has a severe lack of those minerals.
Shucks. All right. Well, it was a guess.
Good guess.
I was hoping. What do they do? What's the big agriculture or what's the big commerce product out of Iceland anyway? What do they do?
Tourism.
Yeah, tourism.
That's it, huh?
Pretty much.
Reykjavik, they host great chess matches.
Yeah.
Right?
And they have fermented pickled shark that people eat.
Now, see, those fermented, they probably have the best microbiomes in the planet.
Probably do.
Second only to the fermented soybeans that they eat in Japan. Pickled what?
They eat like fermented shark is like some sort of
Well,
Icelandic
if they ate
delicacy. I guess
if they ate the fins off the shark, according to the Asians, they'd be romantic lovers. Icelandic.
Maybe that's why we sent Billy.
I do think it's interesting because there haven't been. I mean, that was a hallmark of Trump term 1, right? Was like a lot of turnover, a lot of people in and out, and there has been a lot of turnover at the IRS. Would they say there's been like 6 heads in the last here a little bit? But I think so. There haven't been too many changes, I would say, in Trump term 2. I think that's a good thing. I mean, he didn't get Matt Gaetz. The Ed Martin thing didn't work out. This apparently didn't work out. But the list isn't super long.
But Ed Martin's going to be investigating, isn't he investigating Letitia James and Adam Schiff? Schiff?
Yeah, he did. He ended up with a position in the government, just not the original one we thought he was going to get.
Yeah, isn't he like a deputy U.S. attorney or something? I don't know. He's in charge of the newly created weaponization unit or something of the DOJ, right?
I think that's right.
Weaponization of justice, yeah. I'm glad Ed has a role in that capacity. I mean, he's a bulldog when it comes to calling out the corruption on the left, and he's a staunch Republican and a staunch conservative. Some say too staunch, because you can't get stuff done.
That's fair.
573-874-9390, our number on Wake Up Missouri. We have so. Always remember that Iceland is green and Greenland is ice. It makes no sense, but that's the facts. Maybe it's Greenland. It's somewhere in that part of the North Atlantic. There are some stores of these minerals. I know I read about it. Maybe it's Greenland.
I think it's Greenland.
It must be Greenland. Okay.
Because that Trump wanted to take Greenland, right? And because it has a bunch of helpful stuff.
Yep.
He's never talked about offering to buy Iceland, but maybe that's next.
All right, so Paul says use all the tools of a supermajority, then use them for IP reform and school choice. I agree. I mean, I think why suddenly is the supermajority that this is what confounds me. I really am fond of our legislators, particularly those that wear a GOP, have an elephant on their shirt. I was cleaned out my closet over the weekend. I found an old shirt that a listener gave me, and it had a picture of an elephant on it, and big bold type under it said, "I am the elephant in the room." So I'm gonna have to wear. I don't know.
That'd be a good Friday shirt.
That'd be a good Friday shirt. I don't think I'll have to do that. Yeah. John says Greenland has rare earth, but suddenly it seems like there's this. Oh yeah, sure. We'll use the supermajority and do the PQ if we need to get those districts redistricted. Well, what happened to school choice? What happened to IP reform? Why don't we use that? Let's just say the Democrats are obstinate. They are not going to agree with. You could say, we're gonna start building a cancer curing facility right next to the nuclear reactor research medical facility. as part of a grand Missouri will be the solution to cancer. Missouri will be the solution to autoimmune disease. But we're going to phase that in. And the Democrats would say, not soon enough, not soon enough. I mean, it just seems like no matter what the Republicans try to do, no matter how reasonable it is, the Democrats are going to fight it. So why don't we just use the PQ? And it's like you said, Stephanie, Democrats, if you want to use it, get elected. Get a supermajority. Go for it. Whatever. I just think it's time to stop being nice guys on the right side of the fence. And by right, I mean correct as well as right politically. Why not just do it? Stop being nice guy. Everything that nice guys gotten us over the last 30, 40 years, whenever the Republicans either nationally or in state have been in power, is a gradual, a less vigorous and kinetic move to the left. We slow it down. But our country's move ever since FDR has been a move to the left. I mean, look, we're all redistributing everyone's now. Instead of everyone pays the same percentage of taxes, well, we tax the rich, and then we have these handouts, and you phase out certain benefits if you make over a certain. That's all socialism. That is socialism. It's redistribution. And look where it's gotten us. It's only gotten the richer get richer and the poor get poorer, and the middle class is dissolved. Joe Biden's right. The middle class has been gutted. Thank you, Democrats. Thank you, some Republicans. So I say we go back to simple 1789 constitutional governance. How easy would that be?
Not to be confused with 1917 governance, and each according to his means, right?
There you go. And it started back in that progressive era. And, you look at some of the writings of the progressives in that era and how they were going
the Russian Revolution.
Yeah, and they were going to use, they rigged the education system to turn everyone progressive, everyone social communist. Remember, just look at Reds. Just look at Reds. Watch that god-awful Warren Beatty movie. My God, it went on forever. Was that 3.5 hours? Oh, my Lord. Forever. All right. It's worse than Yentl with Barbara Streisand. Oh, my goodness. If there is a hell on earth, it's watching Yentl reruns. We'll be back and wrap it up on Wake Up Missouri with leftovers after this.
This is
Minutes to cover some of the things we haven't approached yet. John, what do you have?
Well, this is a story we preface by saying you've heard of a barrel full of monkeys. How about a basement full of chimps? A Sunrise Beach woman who was featured in an HBO documentary about people who keep wild animals as pets is headed to prison. Tanya Haddix pleaded guilty to perjury and obstruction of justice. She'd originally told investigators that her chimpanzee that she kept in the house had died. He had not. And she got a 4-year prison term.
Whoa, ouch.
For harboring chimpanzees.
Harboring chimpanzees. That's something Drake might get in trouble for. I don't know.
I'm not much of a chimp guy or like a monkey guy. I prefer birds.
I think Drake is like the Dr. Doolittle of Wake Up, Missouri.
I'll take that title.
Yeah, that's good. What do you have, Steph?
You can be the owner of some Hartsburg history. 2 historic Hartsburg properties are up for auction. Hartsburg is just south of Ashland and along the Katy Trail. And apparently, the Missouri Organic Association was gifted these 2 properties known as the Station and the Grand.
Wow.
And they're accepting bids right now, I think through the bidding comes to a close Tuesday at 2 p.m. But if you're looking for a spot, for a little piece of history or a spot to open a business, the auction site itself says, imagine a boutique or a coffee shop, a cozy inn, a creative co-working space. Somebody with some entrepreneurial mindset could really fix these up and do something really cool. Of course, the Grand is big, and somebody said you could do like a rustic wine bar or specialty market, a trail-friendly bed and breakfast, a bike rental shop. So
interesting.
I think it's an opportunity. I think because of the way that it's structured, that you could, if you've been looking to get into business, you potentially could get a place for pretty reasonably.
Something occurred to me. Oh, Drake, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the Detroit Lions, with the preseason games happening, the Detroit Lions, they had a safety who ended up going to the hospital during the game. There was about 15 minutes left in the game.
On a backboard. Yeah.
Well, they ended the game early.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Randy, they came together in a prayer circle, both
I
teams,
saw that.
and prayed.
Yeah.
And then, decided to just let the game
Yeah, they
go.
were worried about a spinal injury. What do we know? Was there any follow-up?
He says that he's okay. Not many people around here are going to care about the Detroit Lions, but, just seeing these football injuries, it's sad. But
I think we care about anyone like that who gets injured. We think about who was the guy that on the Buffalo Bills who was it Buffalo? Who was the guy that the cornerback who had a cardiac arrest?
Oh, yeah. Is it DeMar Hamlin?
Yeah. Was that Buffalo?
He died on the field and got brought back.
Yeah. So, that's just tragic when that happens. And, we are entertained by these guys, and they go out there and give it their all. So, that's true. It occurred to me, though, we're talking about Donald Trump bringing the National Guard and ATF and Amtrak police and everyone else that he has jurisdiction over into D.C. to clean up the criminal mess that they have there because Muriel Bowser just won't do it. Well, we talked with Chief Jill Schluty last week, and I was really thankful for that. We had a lot of great comments online and otherwise about that. And we need to touch base with her from time to time. Progress being made in recruiting. They're sort of now going to start, when they see groups assembling and violating misdemeanor-ish kind of things, they're going to cite them, I guess sometimes arrest them maybe if they continue to do it. I don't know, it's case by case. But try to really bring down the level at which they start to call people out before they can escalate, as in these hotspots. And I thought, but despite their best efforts, they can't be everything to everyone, everywhere, all the time, right? There's only so many on the force. Does the governor of the state of Missouri have the same kind of leeway to call in the troops, and I mean that generically, to municipalities that can't get their act together?
You saw the change with the board going in St. Louis.
Yeah.
There has been a history of state control over local police boards where it's necessary, but we had to go in and make some changes this year in order to give him more authority.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah.
One word for you, Ferguson.
Yeah, I was thinking they brought the National Guard in there, right? In the Highway Patrol, right.
Yep.
That'll wrap it up. We'll see you tomorrow, gang.
Bye.